If you are visiting Barcelona for the first time this year, make sure you watch this video because in it, I'm going to be sharing all the top tips and must-knows for first-time visitors. Now, in case you're new here, hi, I'm Christina from happytowander.com. And this channel is all about practical travel tips from someone who's been there, done that, so be sure to like and subscribe if that sounds like your kind of thing. Now, let's get started with some Barcelona travel planning tips. So, of course, as you probably are aware, Barcelona is a city that is geographically located in Spain. But many visitors forget that it is part of a state known as Catalonia, which is culturally unique from other parts of Spain and therefore culturally different from a lot of the Spanish stereotypes and cliches that you might have in your head. In fact, most Catalans will not refer to themselves as Spanish, and there is a pretty heavy independence movement as well, but that's a story for another time. As a tourist, what you should know is that Barcelona is in Catalonia, so be prepared for signs in Catalan and be ready for some cultural traditions that are different from what many first-timers consider to be Spanish traditions. Next, definitely do avoid visiting Barcelona during peak season. The truth is, Barcelona is one of the most visited cities in Europe, and even though I've never been in peak season, I have seen enough crowds during my January, April, and May visits to be very afraid of just how many people there will be in the peak months of July and August. Add on the sweltering heat, and it's probably not the best recipe for a good time. So if you don't like crowds and you have the flexibility, definitely timing your visit for the off-season is something I would highly recommend. Especially during my visit in January, there were so many monuments I could just walk up and go see, and really the temperatures were so comfortable, and so long as you're not there specifically to go laze on the beach, going in the off-season is really, really awesome if you're there for the cultural and historic attractions. However, I do need to clarify, just because Barcelona is quieter in the off-season doesn't mean it's a magical time where there's going to be no one there at all. In fact, there are still crowds during the off-season, even in January, so do be prepared for that. Like I said, this is one of the most popular cities to visit in Europe, so be sure to have your expectations in check. In regards to where to stay, there are so many different options in Barcelona depending on your budget. Overall, for first-time visitors, I would highly recommend you stay in the central historic core, meaning neighborhoods like the Gothic Quarter, El Born, Eixample, or Gracia, which will ensure you're within walking distance to most points of interest and also will put you really close to a lot of restaurants and nightlife. I have stayed in several places before that I can highly recommend, so here's some quick recommendations. On a more budget-friendly price point, if you're looking for a hostel, in the past I've stayed at the Sant Jordi Sagrada Familia hostel and everything was really clean, really great location, and I can highly recommend that if you're looking for a hostel. If you're looking for a hotel, budget-wise, I stayed at the Hotel Practic Garden, and that's actually a chain that they have in Barcelona, so a few different locations, really good value for money. In terms of mid-range options, I've stayed at the Gran Via, and it's a super central location and has really beautiful communal areas. And on the bougier, more elevated aesthetic side of things, I can definitely recommend staying at 70 Hotel, and I really like staying at Casa Bonai as well. If you're feeling especially splurgy, there are quite a few well-known hotels that have really amazing views if you're looking for a kind of bucket list experience. But that said, do be very careful because a lot of the time these hotels will, of course, charge extra for any rooms that have this iconic view. So always double check when you're booking and don't just assume you're going to get a Sagrada Familia view just because you booked at that hotel. Some popular ones include Hotel Colón, which has epic views of the cathedral, Ayer Hotel, which has a bar overlooking the Sagrada Familia, and also the Hoxton Poblenou, which has a nice terrace, views, and pool. And I'll be linking all these recommendations in the description, by the way, in case you want to find the links. Now, before we move on to transport tips, I just want to say when you're making your itinerary, something I highly recommend is adding a few more Catalan destinations on your itinerary, because Barcelona is awesome, but actually the entire state of Catalonia has so much to offer. So some other cities I really love include Girona and Tarragona. Montserrat is absolutely incredible if you love mountains. And if you go a little farther, the Costa Brava, that coastline is absolutely stunning, and there's lots of beautiful towns around there as well. Now let's move on to some Barcelona tips for transport and getting around. In terms of arriving in the city, the cheapest way is definitely taking the Aerobus from the airport, which costs $5.90 each way and is super quick and convenient. If you have a larger group, or if you're just looking for ease of mind though, booking a private transfer can be quite cost effective as well. For the simplest experience, I like using Welcome Pickups. They provide you with an English-speaking driver that tracks your flight and everything, but the cheapest option is probably getting an Uber, which is actually really handy for getting around the city as well. Now, once you're in the city, honestly, if you're staying in a central neighborhood, the best way to get around is just on foot. The architecture in Barcelona is probably one of the best highlights for any visitor, so being able to walk around really lets you absorb everything and see everything and experience it properly. That said, if you're staying a little farther away or if you need to traverse some longer distances, then the public transport is actually very convenient and affordable in Barcelona as well. Buses and metro trains both use the same ticket, so it's very simple with the ticketing process. You can buy them just at the machines. But I will say, if you think you will be using public transport quite frequently, one really good ticket to buy is the T10 ticket, which is essentially a packet of 10 different tickets. And the cost works out to be way cheaper than buying single tickets each time. And it also saves you the stress of having to buy a single ticket every time you want to take the metro. They also do have 48-hour and 72-hour passes, but to be honest with you, they're quite expensive. And if you're just staying in the center of the city, you're going to be doing a lot of walking. So for most visitors, unless you're staying farther away, I don't really think it makes sense to get one of these longer passes. As I said before, Ubers and taxis are also a very good way to bridge longer distances, and it's quite affordable as well. Uber works perfectly fine in Barcelona. So definitely keep that in mind, because this can actually work out to be way cheaper if you have a bigger group. You can also rent a bike or scooter as needed. There's tons of options available. Now let's move on to some Barcelona tips for attractions. The major tip I have for you is to book big attractions well in advance. If there's anything in Barcelona that you've always dreamt of visiting, make sure you secure those tickets well in advance. I'm talking weeks, even months, just because, again, Barcelona is so busy and most of the tourists who are coming here are going to see the exact same things as you want to see, so you want to avoid disappointment by booking things well in advance. When in Barcelona, time is money. You don't want to be left waiting in line either. So if there's ever a skip the line option, definitely get that as well. And I'll be linking lots of different options for you in the description too. Now, if you plan to do a lot of sightseeing though, something that might make sense is taking advantage of combo cards and different attraction passes. This can often help you to save money because honestly, sightseeing in Barcelona can be wildly expensive. With a lot of the Gaudi attractions, those can be 20 to 30 euro each, which really adds up if you want to see many of them. So a lot of the time, if you're planning on going to a lot of attractions, it does make sense to get a pass of some kind, and that's usually going to save you some money. The trouble is there's so many of these passes, so it can make it really overwhelming to decide. So when you're comparing the different passes, some of the distinctions to keep in mind include, firstly, do they include public transport or not? Again, whether you need this is going to be up to you. For me, Barcelona is very walkable, so a lot of the time you don't need that public transport pass, but do keep in mind some passes include that, some passes don't. Second is looking at what kind of attractions the pass actually includes, because each of these passes tend to cater towards a different type of attraction or they have a different selection. That's kind of what sets them apart. So if you're there and you're really interested in the modernist attractions, for instance, you want to see a lot of Gaudi, not all the passes include the Gaudi attractions. So definitely keep that in mind and make sure you're reading the fine print to see what's actually included in the pass. On my most recent visit, I got a Go City pass, and that actually included most of the things that I wanted to see. Most of the Gaudi attractions were on there, and a lot of really enticing offers like day trips as well that were included, so it ended up saving me so much money. So I can definitely recommend that, but at the end of the day, the best thing to do is really just crunch the numbers and do the math, and then see which option works out to be the cheapest for what you specifically want to see. So some of the other passes that you might be interested in include the Barcelona card, which is the official tourist card by the city of Barcelona that includes public transport, several free museums, and also discounts on bigger attractions. There's the art ticket, which includes entry to 6 of Barcelona's top art museums for only 38 euro. The Barcelona Pass Modernista, which offers 7-day skip-the-line access to 10 of the most famous modernist works in Barcelona for steep savings, plus quite a few more. So again, compare the options, do the math. I have a free spreadsheet that I'll link in the description that can help with that. But yeah, do keep in mind that these attraction passes can save you a ton of money. Now, speaking of all these attractions though, something I will caution against is overstuffing your itinerary. This is very easy to do in Barcelona because of course there's so many amazing things to see, but really a lot of what makes Barcelona special is the vibe. So don't force yourself to see 10 museums in a day just to cram it all in, because you do need to leave some breathing space for enjoying some drinks on a terrace and enjoying some good food and just soaking in the vibes that make Barcelona special. Another tip is to wake up early. The morning hours are definitely the best time to visit Barcelona because after 10 a.m., most of the main tourist attractions are super busy. So yes, I am talking sunrise early if you want to be able to experience the city as if it's completely your own. So I can definitely recommend that as an option. And what I would personally do is pick maybe the #1 attraction you're super keen to see and aim to get there first thing in the morning, and then plan a sunrise walk before that. And then you can enjoy the city, enjoy the beauty, and then have a crowd-free experience at your preferred place. I would also advise you kind of mix things up and go do some more offbeat activities that aren't just like the Gaudi top 10. Barcelona can be so busy at the main tourist attractions, sometimes uncomfortably so, but honestly, there are so many cool places that will have a fraction of the crowd. So one of my favorite places, for instance, is the Recinte Modernista de Sant Pau Hospital, which is way less busy than any Gaudí spots. I also recently went to Casa Amatller, which is literally right next door to the Casa Batlló, but going there, I genuinely had a private tour all to myself, which is crazy because the Casa Batlló, it was so crowded, I was basically just walking in a line the entire time. So definitely don't get hung up on just the super famous places you've heard of. Be sure to do some research and check out some more hidden gems as well. And I do have a full video about the best things to do in Barcelona, so be sure to check that out if you want some inspiration. And I know these are some very specific tips, but if you're still with me and you like this level of detail, then be sure to let me know by commenting sangria in the comments. Now, for those on a budget, another tip is to just enjoy all of Barcelona's amazing free viewpoints. Barcelona is a stunning city with lots of great vantage points, many of which are free, so here's some of my favorites. The Bunkers del Carmel, to me, are the best view in the city, a bit of work to reach, but absolutely magical views. There's also Las Arenas de Barcelona, which is a bullring turned shopping mall that is now home to a free 360-degree viewing platform that overlooks Plaza de España. Access is free through the escalator, or to take the elevator, it's like €1. El Corte Inglés is also nice. It's a very popular shopping center, and on the top floor, they have a really great view from their rooftop cafe. And Tibidabo is, of course, the highest viewpoint in Barcelona and has some incredible sweeping views of the entire city. Now, if you're visiting Barcelona for some beach time, then something I will caution against is going just to Barceloneta Beach, because a lot of people consider this to be the top beach in Barcelona, but it is, of course, the most crowded and honestly not the cleanest or the nicest. A lot of locals will, in fact, avoid it like the plague, and there are actually much better options that aren't too far away. Bogatel, for instance, is way cleaner and close by. And I've also heard great things about Sigues if you don't mind going a little bit outside of the city. Now, in terms of attractions, I think I touched on this before, but again, do keep in mind that Barcelona has Catalan traditions, so don't go scouring the streets in search of things like flamenco and bullfights. Those are not things that they do here, and they do have flamenco performances and things that are very much catered to tourists if you want that experience. I've done it and it's fine, but it's not really an accurate representation of what the regional culture is actually like, so just keep that in mind. And be sure to make time to visit some of Barcelona's other neighborhoods. After all, Barcelona is more than just a tourist hotspot. They have over 1.6 million residents that live there, and there are lots of cool, vibrant neighborhoods to check out beyond just the historic center. One of my favorites is El Born. It's not really that far out of the way. In fact, it's very close to the main neighborhoods, but still a lot of people seem to miss it for some reason. And there's just a lot of really cool stuff there. The streets are beautiful. There's the El Born Cultural Center, which is very cool. And they have some of the best croissants in the world at Pastisseria Hoffman. So be sure to go there and get the mascarpone croissant. Your life will be changed. And on that note, it's time for some food and drink tips for Barcelona. Now, first, definitely do try your best to avoid tourist trap restaurants, especially on Las Ramblas. And the reason I say that is because, again, there's a lot of tourists in Barcelona, and so many restaurants have started catering to the tourist crowd and don't really focus too much on quality or value for money, just because they know people are just looking for a place to eat once. They don't need to work on customer retention or people coming back. So it is very commonly known that many of these tourist trap restaurants, especially on Las Ramblas, will just serve you heated up frozen paella or watered down sangria, and usually for quite an extortionate cost. So be sure to do some research into where you're gonna eat and don't just let yourself get so hungry that you sit down at the first place that you see. Some of the common red flags to look out for include pictures or stock photos of popular Spanish foods. So if they're advertising things like paella, which actually isn't local to the region, by the way, or things that they know tourists are looking for, like free Wi-Fi, it's probably not a great sign. Another not so great sign is if they've got menus in many different languages and they're clearly targeting tourists. Again, this isn't necessarily going to mean the food will be terrible, but it's not going to give you a great chance. So always look at the reviews in advance. Another thing is to expect to eat dinner later. So if you're accustomed to eating dinner before 9 p.m., honestly, the meal times in Barcelona will probably shock you, but people just dine later in Barcelona, so do adjust accordingly and know that a lot of restaurants won't be open that early. Another tip is to check out lots of local markets. A lot of first-time visitors will already have La Boqueria on their itinerary, but that one, of course, is super busy, and it's not the only one that's worth checking out. So one of my favorites is Santa Caterina Market. It has this really beautiful wavy roof design, and it's got more of a local vibe, so I can definitely recommend that. And there are other markets to explore as well, so definitely take advantage of the vibrant market scene and not just La Boqueria. And be sure to consider a food tour as well. Barcelona has such a vibrant food scene cuisine, and having a guide bring you to the best places to give you a sample of Catalan cuisine can be really, really helpful. I did a tour with Devour Barcelona and learned so much about what regional cuisine actually consisted of, and it was a really great way to experience a lot of different dishes in one go, and I got to see lots of the city that I feel like I probably would have missed otherwise. And lastly, if you're at Barceloneta Beach, don't drink the weird mojitos that they're selling on the beach. Honestly, I've heard nothing but bad things about these beachside mojitos, and they honestly look pretty gross, and same goes for a lot of the things that the guys on the beach are selling, like the different beach blankets. I have straight up seen a guy try to sell someone a beach blanket. When they didn't want it, he folded it up and stuffed it down his pants to avoid the police. So I wouldn't be trusting any of the things that are being sold on the beaches, especially in the more touristy zones of the beach. Now, finally, let's move on to some Barcelona tips for once you arrive. I would definitely say to learn some Spanish or some Catalan in advance. Even though in touristy settings, a lot of people will speak English, I did find myself needing to rely on my broken Spanish quite a lot more than in other major European cities. So it'd definitely be handy to learn a few basic words just to be polite, and also to have Google Translate handy just in case. Another thing you should avoid is over tipping. Tipping isn't expected in Barcelona to the same extent as it is in North America. So usually rounding up or tipping a few extra euro is of course going to be welcomed, but you don't need to tip 15 to 20% like you might in North America. Another thing is definitely wear comfortable shoes. You're going to be doing so much walking in Barcelona. There's a lot of cobblestones, so you don't want to be caught out wearing uncomfortable shoes. That's definitely super important. And very important, do learn all the common pickpocket tricks that you might encounter in Barcelona, because unfortunately the city does have a really nasty reputation for having some of the craftiest pickpockets in Europe. So do always keep your belongings very close to you. Do never leave your phone kind of just out in the open or in any place where it's just very easily snatchable. And do be very careful when you're out in public, because unfortunately pickpockets in Barcelona can be very crafty. And a final niche tip for you, do be sure to carry hand sanitizer and some tissue or some toilet paper with you, because in a lot of public bathrooms, there doesn't seem to be soap or toilet paper. So don't assume that that's just going to be provided. Do definitely bring your own just in case, even in nicer restaurants and bars. All right, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more travel videos just like this one, and I'll see you next time. Bye.